come back to that stuff. Actual session types. So this is where we go from exercise selection into programming. When it comes to programming, as I said at the start, the sessions that are most beneficial to your overall fitness or GPP are the ones that we want to be doing more of. Yeah. So what's an example of a session that is not particularly beneficial for long-term fitness?
5K row.
5K row. Okay. So long, slow duration monostructural stuff is not going to be great for your fitness. However, can you call yourself fit if you're not able to smash out a quick 5K row? Probably not. Okay. So while it may not provide the stimulus to improve your fitness to a great extent, it is a good test. So it has to be in there because you can't call yourself fit unless you can do it. So it's in there as a test, as an extra stimulus because you have to be able to do that, but it's not something we do a lot of. Something that does have a great effect on your overall fitness, an example?
A workout?
Yeah.
Fran,
okay. A workout that involves multiple exercises using different modes, different movement types. And what I do, CrossFit sort of broadly categorizes them into couplets, triplets, chippers, etc. I just call them all multimodal. So these are your session types. So I'd say all of them come under the multimodal category. And I would break that down further. So examples, guys, of multimodal type sessions. I'll give you the first one, couplet. What else? Triplet. Another one. Chipper.
Yeah.
There's two more that I use mainly in my programming that are of a very certain time domain. Tabata. So CrossFit uses Tabata in a WOD like Tabata this, where you might do 5 exercises, 4-minute Tabata round of each with a 1-minute rest. They do that for a very small and narrow number of exercises.
Yeah.
So that they traditionally do a lot of gymnastic stuff. So you'll do row, push up, pull up, sit up, squat, for example. I tend to use Tabata a lot more for high rep gymnastic and weightlifting movements as well. Okay, mainly because you want to be able to lift a heavy load, a medium load, and a light load. Tabata is great for training your capacity to lift a light load very fast, multiple times. You got one more type here?
Do you put your
Sorry?
Metcon?
All of these would come under Metcon, yeah.
Do you put your muscle endurance ones on there, the 7.5-minute jobs?
No. Sorry, Donna J?
So even though most of the ones that you've got Metcon are only sort of like the heavy weighted ones, still,
I'd put that as another category. Yeah. I'd go, no one's wearing the t-shirt, I'd go Fight Gone Bad style.
yeah.
Okay, now, those of you who don't know Fight Gone Bad, it's basically 5 exercises, 1 minute each, 1 minute rest, either 3 or 5 rounds. And again, most people who program CrossFit, they won't use that Fight Gone Bad time domain for any other workout other than Fight Gone Bad. But and everyone knows how much Fight Gone Bad hurts. There's no reason you can't program a whole bunch of different exercises into that same template and be extremely, extremely effective. I don't think it's something that's used a lot, so it's something that we do. Okay, so we're saying that multimodal is our first session type, and these are subtypes, so they fit under multimodal. How about others, guys? So others rather than multimodal. What did you say before?
You're around 7.5-minute muscle endurance.
Okay, so let's go. Let's call it relative strength. One of the things that I do with my programming that we do at Range of Motion is instead of looking at GPP all the time, which is general physical preparedness, sometimes we take that apart and say, well, let's just nail 1 or 2 components of fitness. CrossFit does that with absolute strength work. So CrossFit will do a lot of strength days where they're doing 1, 2, 3, 5 rep maxes or whatever the case may be, normally for weightlifting movements. But they don't tend to do the same thing for relative strength or gymnastics-based movements. In my opinion, at least, your strength stuff, you need to be able to lift a very heavy load a very small number of times. But most of the gymnastics-based movements, the programming in competition calls for you to be able to do high rep gymnastics-based movements. So you'll have a serious advantage if you can smash out a big number of pull-ups, a big number of ring dips, a lot of muscle-ups unbroken. So to that end, we train those gymnastics movements very high rep or very long time domain. So a typical relative strength session that I would do, focusing on gymnastics movements, is relative strength relative to your body weight. A pretty common template we use is 7.5 minute AMRAP of pull-ups, 7.5 minute AMRAP of ring dips, and then a minute rest, max rep muscle ups at the end. Okay, so, and basically your score is the number of reps completed. So what I do is have a pushing based gymnastics movement, a pulling based gymnastics movement. So you're pushing, you can go push-ups, ring push-ups, handstand push-ups, dips, ring dips, whatever you like. Okay. Your pull-based movements, I've moved away from doing a lot of supine pull-up work, as well as the pull-up stuff. I now just go with pull-ups a lot. So what you'll find is just about every relative strength session will be very high rep pull-up stuff, coupled with very high rep of some sort of body weight pushing movement, purely because what we do is so pull-up centric, and it's probably one of the best half dozen exercises that there is out there. Okay. Another session type.
Continuous cardiovascular.
Yep. So continuous cardiovascular. Again, not something that has a great effect on your fitness, but something that you have to do. Yeah. In fact, I hardly do it, which means I never write it, so I'm out of practice. I need to practice my words. Another session type.
One rep maxes.
I'd put that under multimodal. I know on the programming I've got it separately. Yeah, so I call it absolute strength, Tom.
Yep.
So example of an absolute strength session.
One rep max deadlift. Or
Yep.
find your one rep max deadlift.
Yeah. Okay, so X rep max of the slow lifts. Okay, so I distinguish between absolute strength and the fast lifts, which would be called a power session. Okay, so slow lifts, the absolute strength stuff, you're basically looking at variations on the squat, front, back, or overhead. Variations on the press, but mainly just a strict press, because we're looking for strength, not power. And deadlifts. Those are the main three. Okay, a squat-based movement, a deadlift-based movement, and a strict press. For power-based sessions, guys, what movements are you going to have in a power-based session?
It's yours. Sorry.
Looking at any of the Olympic lifts or fast lifts, okay? So when you're looking for power, guys, power is the application of force in a short amount of time. So we're trying to generate force here. So we're looking at stuff like a push press as opposed to a strict press. Any variation on Olympic lifts, so clean and jerk and snatch, whether it be a squat, clean and jerk, power stuff. Make sure that stuff, guys, again, it's low rep. You're looking at 1, 2, 3, 5 rep maxes on that, nothing more. Also, guys, something that we do, which no one else really programs, interval-based cardiovascular stuff. Now, remember that this stuff here, which is the meat of what we do, this does cover all of this stuff. So this will improve your relative strength, your continuous cardiovascular endurance, your absolute strength, your power, your interval cardiovascular. This will improve all that stuff. However, what this stuff is basically supplemental stuff to improve your capacity with this. It just beefs up your overall general physical preparedness. So we do interval cardiovascular stuff where you basically work through the 3 different pathways, focusing 3-to-1 ratio. I'll give you guys notes on this stuff, so you don't need to remember this, but working on a 3-to-1 ratio for anything that's phosphocreatine, which is that really short energy system. So very high intensity max effort sprints with 3 times as much rest as you're working for. So for example, you might do 8 rounds of a 10-second sprint, 30-second rest. Okay. Work on glycolytic stuff, which is a 1-to-2 work to rest ratio. That's more 30 seconds up to about 2 minutes. So it might be a 2-minute max effort followed by 4 minutes rest for X reps. And then there's oxidative stuff, and that's sort of 3 minutes up. That's a 1-to-1 work to rest ratio. The oxidative stuff isn't as beneficial. Basically, if you graph the 3 energy systems, you get something like that. This longer one, which is the oxidative, which is where the continuous cardiovascular sits purely, that will only improve that. Okay? Whereas this stuff will improve this stuff plus that. So you can work on this stuff here in the shorter time domains and get a benefit across the board. that is pretty much. Oh, the only other one I'd put in there again, which CrossFit programs a little bit, but not a huge amount, is sprint and agility training. So the sprint stuff, a typical sprint session, I'd go 4 25-meter sprints, 3 50-meter sprints, and this is with loads of rest. So this is more analogous to
training.
a power or an absolute strength training session than it is to an interval cardiovascular session. So you go 4 25-meter sprints just with a walk back, like have 2 or 3 minutes rest, 3 50-meter sprints, 200-meter sprints, 1 200-meter sprint. And you will be insanely sore after that. It's the sort of session that will make you sore. It's running like there's a saber-toothed tiger chasing you. Very fast stuff.
Or a bear.
Or a bear. Okay? So that pretty much, guys, those pretty much are the session types that I cover. So multimodal is the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh.